because I don't think I communicated to you properly what I wanted on this report. But what I'm really interested in is how many firefighters we have that are qualified paramedics. What's the percentage?
I would have to look at the percentage, but I believe we're upwards around 65%, 65%.
I'm sorry, 55?
65%.
65%?
Around there, I
Okay,
would say.
all right.
I would have to get the specific numbers. but
Well, they're all EMTs you're talking about.
They're all well,
at-
everyone's at least an EMT.
Right, and then,
65% of 60, what's the number? 65% are paramedics.
And the second question I think I asked you the other day was, is this a a requirement when we hire new people that they are qualified paramedics?
No, sir, it is not a requirement to hire a qualified paramedic for the position. However, when we do look at employees, that is a consideration when we go through the hiring process, like what we're doing now.
but to clarify that, they have to be EMT.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to make a motion, if I may. I would like to make a motion that we ask the chief to put together a scenario for us. First of all, I'd like to ask that we require all of our new hires, as a basic requirement to being hired, that they are a paramedic.
Anybody want to second that for discussion's sake?
Yeah, I'll second for discuss, sure.
Okay, there's a second for discussion's sake, and we've had this conversation many times in budget, and I'm going to ask for help here, but it appears to me, when we've gone over budget, you pay paramedics more than you do firefighter EMTs, okay? And at the level of service that we were at, we didn't need 100% of our people from a dollar and cents from where we sit to be certified paramedics. Am I correct?
Yes, I would like to say in the hiring procedure, it is not mission critical that we have paramedics upon initial employment. In fact, if we do have EMTs involved in the hiring procedure, it expands the pool of candidates, where we're simply not hiring for a certificate, where we're hiring actually the man or woman. So it allows us an opportunity to expand that pool. Now, years ago, I would say that was true. At one point in time in Bonita Springs Fire Department, 15 years ago or so, we would not hire anybody unless they were a paramedic, simply because we just became ALS, and I was one of the first 9 along with these guys, so I was making overtime at the time. But we do not have a shortage of paramedics. That paramedics is not our issue right now. However, that would be up to the board to decide. From an administrative point of view and an operational point of view, it would not be critical or even necessary to make that a requirement at this time
And
for operations.
I would ask Dr. Rohde, would you, from where you sit and the job you do, would you rather us hire new recruits and you train them to become paramedics versus us hiring a paramedic that already knows everything and he's just going to sit there and go, well, I've already done this, I know that. That begs that question for me.
As I stated earlier, we're changing the program at Edison because there's been some deficiencies in what's come out over the years in the quality of the individuals. In my mind, I'd rather we look for the individual who's got the motivation, who's got the intelligence, who has the poise to do the job to begin with. We can teach him medicine. We can teach him what he needs to know to be a paramedic. I don't think we need 100% paramedics. That's my personal opinion. Now, when you go to transport, you may need more than the current number we have. And remember what I said also, the state is going to be changing the requirements and making them much more stringent and in line with the National Registry. So that's going to put us in a position where, especially with our training that I've already changed, meeting certain benchmarks in the process of training our people. So one of them is critical thinking, which currently is not being taught. They're just given a cookbook and that's it.
I wanted to say to Commissioner McCourt, now, I wanted to be clear on this, that if we have an equal candidate that has the certification of paramedic and they go through our hiring process, of course we would, because it would save the district money not sending them to school, they would already be paramedics at that point. If they were equal and they survived our testing process and did well, then of course we would put emphasis on the certification at that point.
Well, I guess my response to that is I would hope you feel that way. But I also believe that if you are hiring people who have already demonstrated they have the motivation to become paramedics, we're starting out at a much higher level of the quality people, and we're not assuming then that training cost to bring somebody up to paramedics. The next question I would ask, and I think maybe I already have well, I better not. Go ahead.
What,
I
no,
don't
we
wanna
have
change the
to,
subject.
we have an open motion on the
Well, I
floor.
was gonna ask a couple questions if I could.
Absolutely.
It would seem to me that maybe you can have a kind of happy medium. It would seem to me that, first of all, you have to be a firefighter, and I believe the better you do on that test that you take, the quicker, more likely you are to be interviewed. So is being a paramedic given extra points so that if you do real good on the firefighting, that exam, and then you also are a paramedic, that you would kind of float to the top?
At this point in time in our district, you can't be an officer without being a certified paramedic approved by Dr. Rohde. So at some point in your career, it will be necessary for you to advance in your career to be a paramedic. Now, I'm saying from an operational standpoint that we have plenty of paramedics.
All right.
And they will all, when they advance into a leadership position, meaning a company officer, in which they're running these calls and are in charge of patient care, they are now required to be paramedics.
All right.
Let me ask you this, because I don't remember. I probably should. But would the starting pay be different for a new firefighter with the paramedic, or would it be after a 2-year or 3-year in a step program versus an EMT firefighter? What was the difference in the starting salary? I don't recall that now.
Well, I know. From the paramedic standpoint, they get a incentive, and I
Right.
believe the first incentive is
But under the-
200 and.
But under the new tier of the
It's the
contract,
same.
we had rolled that into,
No, the paramedic incentive is separate from
Okay.
salary.
right.
It's an incentive pay.
So
If you
would
look
they
at your
get that
sheet-
incentive pay as brand-new hires, is my question.
Yes, I believe they got to get credentialed
Yeah,
first.
I can answer that. They don't get paramedic certified
Mm-hmm.
by Bonita Springs or me until I approve them. And they don't all get approved automatically just because they're paramedics. Some of them have taken longer to pass the credentialing exam. Remember what I said about the critical thinking? Because they're not taught that and EMS doesn't allow that, it's new to them. So when I give them a case, you know, they think it's in the book here, it's the protocol. They don't understand how they're supposed to take that case and then take the information and put it together and know what to do with the patient. So normally, and this is really true with my other agencies, they've hired EMS people and sent them to fire school. They have not been credentialed. Many of them take almost a year to get credentialed to pass the exam. So-
And the simple question, I guess,
and-
is
and they
would
don't
it,
get paid, so.
would it add more to our cost? Would our payroll increase by making it a requirement that everybody be a paramedic?
By the amount of that incentive. But, I would have to go back to.
Would it be cost-effective over time?
I would have to go
I guess
back
that's the
to-
question, is if we pay them more now and we don't pay for their training as time goes on, is that more reasonable and having more medics than we need? Is that financially feasible
Yeah.
or responsible to do it that way versus the way we do it?
Well, I would say operationally, we do not need paramedics. I mean, that's as clear as I can say at this point in time. And I would not make a decision on an employee based on their, that particular qualification. We've had guys, like the doc was saying, we've had people who come out of paramedic school, take 4 years to get credentialed, because they may look, okay, they passed paramedic school, but they weren't a motivated employee and can't pass Dr. Rohde's testing. So I don't, to run the operation effectively, to provide a full-service ALS department like we do now, it is not necessary to make that a hiring requirement. It's
All
not
right,
necessary.
If there's no more further discussion on this, let's vote on this. Let's do a roll call vote. I think the motion is that any new hires from here be certified paramedics,
Yes.
okay?
No.
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 Yes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Can I ask Dr. Rhodey a quick question?
Sure.
Am I not correct in saying that like Lee County that has to transport in an ambulance, they usually have one paramedic and one EMT?
Yes, and they've had some issues with that. I'm not at liberty to go into any details,
Yeah.
but yes, there's, and part of what we see today in their practice is related to issues they've had because of that in the past.
So if we got ambulance transport, even if we had a three-person crew, we could probably, without too much work, handle two paramedics and one EMT in an ambulance. We might have to do another hire or some more hires, but not that many. I'm just asking.
It depends on the deployment model that we use. We have some ideas about how we can best utilize our deployment. I think the last number that we came up with is we could provide 3 ambulances without hiring at this point, with the intention that that's under one deployment model, which would take too much time to go into. But there are other deployment models that we would need to hire. However, still the stance would be that we would anticipate that the revenues from the ridership fee would cover the cost of any new employees to provide the additional service. Does that
Rick?
answer your question, Commissioner?
Yeah.
Commissioner McCourt, do you have any further? You have anything further?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Murphy? Commissioner Forbes?
No.
Commissioner
No.
Stone? Okay, local 3444.
Just wanted to remind the commissioners this Saturday, in conjunction with the department and the city, we're having the, I guess it's not an annual, how long ago was that? We had the softball tournament with the Wounded Warrior softball team. 2011. Happy to announce that they're going to be back this Saturday. There'll be a game at 10 o'clock between us and the Sheriff's Department. And then we'll come back at 5 o'clock. I think the opening ceremonies are at 4:45 or so. And the Sheriff's Department will play the Wounded Warriors at 5 o'clock, and then we'll play them at 7 o'clock.
And that's at the rec center?
That's
or-
at the rec center on Pine Avenue. So
I haven't seen anything written about that anywhere. I knew it was upcoming, but I have not seen that appear on my radar anywhere.
Steve,
Yeah,
I signed up to play, so come out and see a commissioner make a fool of himself.
Commissioner, I have seen that. The CERT team was informed
okay.
of it.
Well,
it's a good time. It's very humbling. We consider ourselves honored to have that team come into Bonita Springs because they're on a waiting list. They travel across the country, and
I know the other one that we did was just
yeah, it's the same team.
monumental.
The same team. So
That's
Just-
awesome.
pass the word, friends, family. It's a good time. Good cause.
Excellent. Thank you. I don't have any cards for public input this evening, but if somebody,
Pass this on here. Yes, Alex Grant, 11851 East Terry Street. When I was, Dr. Rhodey, when I was a volunteer here from 1987 to 1988, I probably ran was on 700 calls, And I remember every fatality. These were accident or fire-related fatalities. I just wanted to tell you, you reminded me of that. Even to this day, 15 years or 17 years afterwards, but you remember every fatality that you go to. I just wanted to mention that for the record. Also, I know I asked this question about in October, I think, or September, I'm not sure, about the incentive pay, and there was a little, not a questionnaire that I proposed to be asked by the commissioners. There are about 35 or so fire departments that are both paid, volunteer, mixed, et cetera, and I wanted to know what was how many had incentive pays for their personnel and how many did not, and I'm wondering if at that time, I believe Commissioner Lohan, you said that you'd look into that.
No, I don't recall saying that, but I do know that the only thing that we as commissioners oversee is our fire department, and whatever the other fire departments do, that's a public records request that you could put in and find out.
I understand that. I was just looking at that as a comparison basis for the commissioners to determine.
When we go through contract negotiations, we always look at the total package, and I will tell you the answer to where we stand locally is we're almost dead in the middle. Out of, I think it was, 12 or 14, or I can't remember how many departments, significant number, and we were right almost on the bubble, not the highest, not the lowest, but we were very much in the median group.
Okay,
And that's total pay, total compensation,
Okay.
not breaking it down to.
and I believe that was at about 5.27%, according to what I calculated, of the total pay package for operating expenses, but that was my own calculation. Okay, well, that was my comment. Thank you.
Deborah McLean, publisher of the Banana Peel and also city editor. I would like to remind us all that the armed forces, and mostly the Republicans, honor and respect our veterans and armed forces, are able to be deployed, fully trained, fully equipped at the drop of a hat. And I'd like to tie this in by saying George W. Bush, another Republican, after 9/11, contacted Homeland Security, and all firefighters nationwide are our first line of defense. The mere thought that you want to dismantle fire trucks, firemen, and their masks, and all of the equipment that they need as first line of defense because the armed forces are overseas shocks me. And as far as Dr. Rohde's training is concerned, I'm aware who said that we are not trained. Dr. Rohde trains our people above Lee County requirements. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anybody else? Meeting adjourned.